we call this paradigm shift organizing because it's not just let me convince you why GMO ag or nuclear power is unsafe.
Right.
It's let me convince you that the relationship that you think exists between you and the people of your community and your institutions, be they government or corporate, let me convince you that you're actually in charge of all of them. Right? Well, that's just,
that's
screwing with our
180-degree turn.
minds.
Yeah.
Right? So it's paradigm shifting work. And so what happens is we go into a community from scratch and we have to get past a lot of skepticism and convince people that this is actually true and that we can be wrenching back, asserting our authority to govern ourselves.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. My guest is Paul Cienfuegos, who's an educator, organizer, and regional leader in the community rights movement. Paul, thank you for giving us the context in our previous little clip. You greeted me with this rather fascinating set of quotes here, and I'm going to ask about it. Slavery is the legal fiction that a person is property. Right, okay. Corporate personhood is the legal fiction that property is a person. Tell us what we're hearing here.
So I think I want to start just by saying that whoever is in charge gets to define everybody else. Okay?
Yes.
So when you say legal fiction, you're basically creating something that doesn't exist in reality, like a corporation, and the people in charge get to make it whatever they want to make it. So we've had since the late 1800s the reality that the people in charge thought it was very important that corporations have all the rights of people, as many of them as possible, and more.
As real people.
Of real people.
Right.
And so what they did was they started, starting in the early 1800s, but it really started getting going in the late 1800s, they started to, mostly through U.S. Supreme Court decisions, pack into the corporate legal fiction, the corporate it, a whole bunch of constitutional rights. There's no legislature that's ever passed or approved any of this stuff, no president. It's almost entirely the U.S. Supreme Court or the state Supreme Courts that we're coming up on 200 years of corporations winning one constitutional right after another through the courts. And so corporations are merely property. They're merely mind-made business structures. Right? Just like money, it's like you hold money and you pay a shopkeeper with money. The reason that the shopkeeper doesn't laugh in your face is that there's a mind-made agreement in the culture that it has value, that money is real. It's not just printed paper, right? So there's a mind-made agreement in the culture at this point, mostly through the propaganda system being so effective, that corporations have power, they have rights, but all they are property. They're just property. You own a share in it. So when you give rights to corporations, it's not even like giving rights to an inanimate object.
Okay.
It's like giving rights to a mind-made nothing.
I mean,
it's like giving rights to the number 6. Not 6 on the sheet of paper, just the number 6.
Except it's powerful and effective. I mean, they're getting away with a hell of a lot of stuff, speaking frankly here, that from this fiction. I mean, you sort of want to ban the fictional, or actually probably change the mindset. But what I'm here, what this is, the agreement of what it is, but what you're doing in the community rights movement is sort of coming around from the other side, what I see, which is asserting the rights of communities which aren't fictions.
No.
Which aren't.
And we're saying that the proper relationship, and constitutionally this is actually true, that the proper relationship between we the people, our government, and our corporate creations is that we're the top, right? We have sovereign authority.
Right.
We have self-governing authority. I mean, here's just an example of the first paragraph of our state constitution in Oregon, the first paragraph of the highest law of the land in this state. And every state has similar language. Article 1, Bill of Rights, Section 1, Natural Rights Inherent in People. We declare that all power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness, and they have at all times a right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such manner as they may think proper. That's the highest law of the land in every state, generally. It's different language. I mean, just to give you a sense, here's Washington State's first paragraph.
Actually, I'm going to interrupt you because I believe you. Give us some examples from communities who are asserting basically that, what you're saying.
Right.
We the people have the right to health.
So we call this paradigm shift organizing because it's not just let me convince you why GMO ag or nuclear power is unsafe.
Right.
It's let me convince you that the relationship that you think exists between you and the people of your community and your institutions, be they government or corporate, let me convince you that you're actually in charge of all of them. Right? Well, that's just,
that's
screwing with our
180-degree turn.
minds.
Yeah.
Right? So it's paradigm shifting work. And so what happens is we go into a community from scratch and we have to get past a lot of skepticism and convince people that this is actually true and that we can be wrenching back, asserting our authority to govern ourselves. So for example, in this state, in Oregon, I've been working hard with a number of communities in Benton and Lane counties in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. Agricultural communities, they've both recently filed with the county elections office local food systems ordinances, the right to a local food system, which explicitly bans all GMO agriculture.
Genetically modified organisms, right.
And so here's just the synopsis of the local food Bill of Rights for each. A right to local food systems, a right to seed heritage, a right of natural communities, right to self-government. Let me just read you two of those. They're brief. Right of natural communities, because one of the things that is very powerful in our movement is that not only are we stripping rights from corporations, but we're starting to recognize that nature has rights. That's the other significant piece that's unique in our work. Here's rights of natural communities under law. Natural communities such as soils and other terrestrial systems and aquatic systems, such as aquifers, streams, rivers, and wetlands, shall possess the right to exist, persist, maintain themselves, and regenerate their own vital cycles, structures, functions, and evolutionary processes in order to ensure the integrity of the local food system within Lane County. Because this is a food system Bill of Rights.
Yes. And yet what I see, what's possible in here is if you're asserting the right of the natural world to function the way it naturally wants to function, that gives us a potential inroad into sort of the restoration and healing of the destruction we, the corporate world in particular, has been doing to the planet.
You bet.
It's
and
exciting.
Not only that, but if you look at the way the enforcement works in these ordinances, is if a corporation damages nature and violates this ordinance and violates the rights of nature, and they're brought to court, they don't just pay a fine, they pay towards the restoration of what they damaged so that it's fixed. That it's not some arbitrary dollar figure.
Right, because they could
that
just...
they're responsible for putting the ecological pieces back together.
Yes. So, in our last 2 minutes, what kind of resistance are you getting from the corporate world on this? I mean, or challenges in the court or whatever? How's it faring?
So the ordinances are designed in a really extraordinary way. They're designed to force the state government and the corporate attorneys to sue us on our terms. They're actually they force the corporations and the state attorney generals to challenge us on making the legal arguments that we want them to make.
Oh, wow.
Right? So the state attorney general has to argue in a county court, that's where it starts, if he dares to sue us, that the state government does not recognize that the people have any self-governing authority.
Which is right there in the Oregon Constitution. So it's like,
so they don't want to do that.
I can see that.
Corporate lawyers have to argue that corporate rights trump the rights of human beings. Now, here's the interesting thing. Both of those arguments are true within conventional law structures. And that's why our ordinances are direct frontal assaults to these structures of law. Our laws that we're passing locally violate corporate constitutional rights and state preemption and Dillon's rule. They are illegal within the construct of conventional law. And what we're arguing is, because conventional law makes it impossible for we the people to self-govern, we have to break the law to drive the rights of our people to self-govern into law in an enforceable way. So in a way, we're hearkening back to the abolitionist and the suffragist movements, which drove rights into law that they couldn't have gotten any other way. They did it through mass civil disobedience over decades. We call our local ordinances collective acts of municipal civil disobedience. The lawmaking itself is an act of civil disobedience against illegitimate law that violates we the people's right to govern ourselves.
You know, I expect that our founding fathers are cheering.
Half of them are. The other half are absolutely opposed.
Well,
Because the founding fathers, the folks who actually won these political battles, didn't want a functioning democratic society. They wanted an elite rule society.
Right, okay. Some of. Then.
The ones who lost the political battles are supporting us.
Well, I hope that what we find, that what is happening in the community rights and the rights of nature movement, I hope that this spreads like wildfire in the best sense, because it seems to me it's the only way that we're going to just turn around what appears to be an immovable elephant, a huge force.
I'm not aware of any other social movement going on in the United States today that has the power to challenge and win against corporate rule and push back corporate constitutional rights, dismantle corporate rights, and enshrine rights for actual human beings. It's the most powerful movement that I've ever seen in my lifetime in the United States. And we have 150 communities in 9 states that have already passed these laws, that have already stopped all sorts of corporate activities and stripped corporations of their rights. Exciting.
Exciting. Now, you should be looking at what rights do you want to keep in your community? Get in touch with, give me a website here, Paul.
PaulCienfuegos.com.
Okay.
Or my colleagues at the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. It's their acronym, CELDF.org.
Okay, and you've got some videos up on a YouTube channel, which is?
If you go to YouTube and you put in Community Rights TV, 3 different words, you will get dozens, and we're adding them all the time, dozens of videos of myself and others giving talks, answering questions. And if you subscribe on that page, every time we add another one, you'll be informed.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your good words. And may this indeed spread all over quickly in time.
Thank you very much.
You're watching Peak Moment TV. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm with Paul Cienfuegos. And one of the most exciting movements I think we're going to see in our lifetime. Good luck. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.